Questions for Nacho Leber. Ben Leber giving us some bonus time today. Post Vikings regular season. He's contracted only for that. But out of the generosity of his heart, he's giving us more time today. If you have a question for Ben, it can be Vikings related, or it can be Wildcard Weekend related. 5 games in the books. A 6th game tonight, which can be heard on the Plus. We got Minnesota Wild hockey tonight on the Fan. Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line for contributions, as always, is 64686. For Ben Leber, through 4 at least of 5 highly entertaining, exciting games, what was the single biggest surprise?
Wow, that's a tough one. I might say that I was thoroughly impressed with Carolina. I think it's just the expectation that, they're going to get blown out and it was not going to be a contest. And here was this team out there with a lot of question marks, and a lot of the country, including myself, didn't get a chance to watch much of the season. And I thought they were physical. I thought they ran the ball, more effectively than I thought. Bryce made, a couple nice plays. Like he sort of looks the part now. He's much more comfortable. He's much more within the flow of the offense. And so, they were a Puka Nacua, basically pass breakup away from taking down possibly the MVP of the league.
Yeah, it's interesting because who was on the color analysis of that game? It was Guardsy's guy, I think. Your favorite. The former tight end.
Greg Olson. Greg Olson.
Here's
his former team.
Exactly. Now, Olson bugged me a little bit in this broadcast because there was a stretch in the game after a really good start when Stafford threw poorly. And he had gotten an injury, which I think ultimately has been ruled negative, but I'm sure it hurt. And as the game is changing and Carolina's getting back into it, it was almost like he couldn't fathom the possibility that Stafford wasn't playing that well. He wasn't throwing that well for whatever the reason. And I wanted to say to him, maybe Carolina's doing some things, or maybe the kid quarterback from Carolina, at least during the middle stretch of the game, is outplaying him a little bit. Now, ultimately, Stafford led them on the drive that he had to and was very good. But can't we acknowledge the possibility that even if a guy's a great player, that he might not always necessarily have a great game?
I think that's a great point. I do think a lot of announcers, I've certainly been in those shoes before, where you sort of get fixated on a storyline that you've prepared all week for and that I mean, it's not like you have to study just that week to know that Matthew Stafford's a great quarterback. But I think too often we're like, oh, he's having an off day versus, well, what is the defense doing to make him have an off day?
Yeah,
like, what is the pass rush doing to make him have an off day? And the funny thing is, I think, I've actually had a lot of conversations about this just with people that have kind of mentored me through this whole journey, is that I think former players they naturally tend to find the issue of what's wrong.
Right.
Like, why did that negatively happen? Because when we watch film, more often than not, 90% of the time, it's not like this offense had a successful play on us. It's more of like, what did we do wrong defensively to allow that successful play? So we focus on like, who was in the wrong spot, who didn't get the right alignment, who didn't get the blitz call, who didn't set the strength call. It's like we focus on so much of the negative versus like, well, what's the other side of that? And I think when it comes to analysis, sometimes as a former player, you forget that not everything is like because somebody did something wrong or is playing bad. It could be conversely, the other side's doing something really well.
There's no question about that. How much of the, if any, did you see of the Bears' absurd comeback against the Packers Saturday night?
I saw all of it. I was with some friends and watching the game, and as you do, you probably missed some plays here and there as you're just gabbing and talking. But yeah, the game was on, and we were talking about it, and we were right there watching everything come down to the wire.
It was, I will say, the games, you've been around them. games can make dramatic turns that you look back on and say, well, how did that happen? But I will tell you, after watching the first half, that was one where I said, this is unchangeable, because I really felt like Green Bay and their coaches had figured out exactly where to exploit a pretty beatable defense, certainly from a numbers standpoint, right? And that the idea that somebody was going to tell me, all right, now in the second half, the Packers are going to punt 4 straight times, get 1 first down through those possessions, I would have laughed you. I'd have laughed you out of the room and said, no, because it looked like everything that Green Bay was doing, like I said, they were almost easy. I didn't even think they were hard plays. People wide open. So how do we explain that kind of reversal?
It is difficult. I mean, the thing is, again, going back to what I said about Greg Olsen, I mean, I didn't break down the film to watch it back and say, okay, well, what did the Bears do defensively that's different than what they did in the first half, from a schematic standpoint, from a coverage standpoint. So maybe there were just some nuances that kind of threw off LaFleur in that offense. But I think we all felt, with the missed kicks and the missed opportunities, I think we all felt that momentum shift.
True.
And when that momentum shifts when you're on the road, in the Bears stadium, I think that is a real thing. And I think they've been through enough this season where they've called into question whether or not how good they really are. And I think in those moments, in that critical moment in the second half, especially the fourth quarter, I think a lot of that doubt sort of crept in. It's like, oh man, like, here we go. Like, they've kind of figured this thing out, and they're a little more physical than we are on the defensive line. And I even thought there was a couple play series where I'm like, well, here comes the run, and they call a run blitz, and they would stuff them. And so it's like, I think they just got out of sorts. They lost the momentum. They lost the flow of the game, and obviously Chicago capitalized.
Ben, I was mentioning this earlier. I'm still gobsmacked that the Bears scored 25 points in a single quarter. It was the fourth quarter. It was one of the highest scoring quarters in the history of the postseason, any quarter. And I can tell you, little Danny Barrero grew up watching Bears teams that couldn't score 25 points in a month. It is astonishing to see what, at least at this point, looks like a pretty good marriage between a coach who is seemingly getting some stuff out of the QB that he didn't seem to have in him. And maybe that was experience. Maybe it wouldn't have mattered who was coaching him. But sure as hell looks like they got something going where Caleb seems to accept all the stuff that Ben Johnson sends his way. And it sounds like Ben is not always easy on this kid. And it certainly looks like now it's something that the Vikings are going to have to reckon with for a while.
Well, I think when he first got there was the news stories. You might remember that Ben Johnson came in with the intention of, like, I'm coaching this kid hard.
Yes.
This will be, in paraphrasing, basically, this will be the hardest he's ever been coached. Like, he didn't come in feeling like he's got to handle him with kid gloves and put him on a pedestal and just coddle him. Mm-hmm. It was the anti-coddle. And I think it's working. It seems like they really are building a trust with one another, and you're starting to see, and here's the scary part is, no way do I believe that he's mastered this offense yet.
Not yet.
It's still going to be another full season before we this is kind of what it looked like in Detroit, with just not just the variety and the creativity, because that just comes down to play calling, but just the way that he operates within the pocket of that offense, because we know what he can do outside the pocket. So yeah, it is kind of scary to see what they're building there in Chicago after 1 year.
Because he's still really not much more than a 50% thrower, which is low in this league anymore, which means there's still a lot of balls he could get better at throwing, and that's the scary part, given what he was able to do down the stretch the other day. Let me ask you another quarterback question. This is the hypothetical game we love to play on this show because it realistically doesn't lead anywhere, but it leads, I think, to at least interesting conversation. So one of the working theories, because this is overreaction Monday, right, after a wildcard weekend, is that for the third playoff appearance, Justin Herbert looked awful. He looked nothing like a franchise quarterback. At times, he didn't even look like he was that interested in hanging in the pocket. Collinsworth, I think, made that point a couple times. And Harbaugh, maybe he's ready to pull the plug and say, well, I don't care how pretty he looks. I don't care what his arm strength allows him to do. It ain't translating to the postseason. So we're ready to look at offers for Justin Herbert. If that eventuality actually existed, there are Vikings fans, some Vikings fans who said their mouth waters at the prospect. There's others who said, I wouldn't get near him. I'm not sure I would get near him. Again, it's not going to happen. But if that was a possibility, would that intrigue or repel Ben Leber?
Are you kidding me? That would definitely be in on that.
You would be. Okay.
Yeah, I truly think that he's tailor-made for KOC's offense.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a dynamic arm. He's shown time and time again he can make touch throws down the field. He can make strong throws in the short and intermediate if he needs to. He has just enough mobility, and I have a ton of faith in what we've seen out of KOC to take guys that kind of fit that prototype, and he can turn them into highly, highly productive players within this offense. I don't I don't have the recall for the previous two playoff games to know how and why he played bad or that they have the record that they did. But I do know this after watching the game yesterday is he had barely any outlets. I mean, the offense was not necessarily tailor-made for him to have some easy throws if he felt like he was under duress. The offensive line was atrocious. And as the game goes on, I can see why he's breaking the pocket early because he's tired of getting his face smashed in and trying to make plays. As great as those receivers have been, I don't think that they continually get the separation that he needs, especially in playoff football. So I think he's got a lot of things working against him in yesterday's game. And, if they are silly and stupid enough to feel like they're going to shop him, I definitely think the Vikings should sniff around and see what the offer looks like.
A lot of money. What's he making, Guardsy? Isn't it 50 next year?
It's like 46 next year, jumps to like 58 the next year.
But, I mean, I get your point. If you trust in KOC with a finished product in terms of, his physical ability to make every throw, then I could see where, to that extent, it would be a little bit intriguing. I didn't even, and maybe some of it was protection. Maybe some of it was, are they running the kind of offense that gives him the best chance to succeed? I don't know. I mean, they've had two really good regular seasons with him. And remember, the team Harbaugh inherited was well below 500, but it certainly hasn't. I mean, they haven't even. I think the last game he threw 4 interceptions against Houston, and that was their defense played well enough to win that game last night through much of it, I thought.
Yeah, well, the thing that I would find baffling, and again, I know that we're playing the hypothetical game, and I put the chances of them shopping Justin Herbert at less than 1%. Okay. If Harbaugh wants to bring in a different quarterback to kind of like quote unquote suit who he's looking for, well, don't you need to run the ball with more efficiency before you bring in anybody? And that's kind of been his calling card all the way through college, and even when he was in the pros on the first stint, is he needed a run game to run his offense. Well, did Justin Herbert have a run game yesterday? Not at all. I mean, they got demolished in the run game. And he was the only one that was actually trying to make something out of the rushing attack, whether it was called runs or him scrambling around. So go ahead and ship him out, and then bring in another quarterback that's not going to have a complimentary run game. I don't see that being successful at all.
All right. We had, like I said, several other, I think, very entertaining results. The theory on Buffalo, they got it done with a late drive, is, all right, he doesn't have to worry about Mahomes any longer. And to that extent, the door has been opened. I haven't watched enough of Buffalo this year, whether they have enough in them totally. I mean, they had to play this game on the road, although they succeeded. Could this be the year that Buffalo and their very talented quarterback finally break through?
It could be. I just think that they might have to change their offensive strategy just a little bit to mirror what Shanahan's doing with the 49ers. Like, I don't trust that the Bills have the wide receiver weaponry to be as dynamic as they want to be. I think they can win a lot of football games. I think they can make a push for a championship. I think if they focus a little bit more on getting the ball to the tight ends and a little bit more to Cook in the passing game and having, just run the wheels off of Cook like they do with CMC. Like, this is the push, man. Like, if you want to win a championship with Josh Allen, I think you rely less on him driving the ball down the field and trying to make some really clutch plays, trying to fit the ball into the receivers. I think it becomes more of, let's do what CMC's doing. And James Cook, you might get 25 carries and you might get targeted 12 times in the passing game. You're going to be sore. We're going to take care of you when the game's over. But I think that riding the running back situation, the tight ends, is more of a recipe for success for Josh Allen.
Yeah, okay, that's a fair point. Nacho Leber giving us some bonus time on we like to call Wildcard Weekend. If you got a call for whatever reason by the folks who run the Green Bay Packers, including Carl Gerbschmidt, with asking for a recommendation on whether they make a coaching change after that cataclysmic, historic collapse in Chicago on Saturday night, what would your counsel be? What would your best advice be?
I would say let's not get emotional and fire one of the better head coaches in the league. I think that their faults, especially in this last game, fell on the lack of defense once again. They lost a superstar player, and they can't seem to find anything to pick up the pieces. And not only obviously you're not trying to replace him one for one, but you can't get a consistent pass rush. You can't strike fear in anybody defensively, and special teams let you down once again. So you're leaving 7 points off the board by your kicker and your defense having a meltdown. I get the 3 and outs and I get all of that stuff, but I think the offense is a few tweaks away. I think the defense needs a major overhaul, and I don't think that necessarily falls on the head coach. I think that's more defensive coordinator in the front office.
I'm with you on that. I guess what I said earlier is when you lose that way and kind of the same way twice in 3 weeks, I think an owners, I guess, or the people who run this team have a right to say, we can't allow that to stand. I'm not sure it'd be a sensible decision because, as you said, I think he is one of the better coaches, and it sounds like the betting money is now that he might get extended. Although there's nothing new on that, right, Garzi, other than what would have been reported by Schefter earlier today. I have absolutely no idea. Part of I think what's driving the story is this feeling that if you can get a ready-made head coach like John Harbaugh, then maybe it's easier to say, yeah, let's go ahead and make that kind of move. I don't know. But then again, I look at the Harbaugh situation and say, well, was he maxing on Lamar? I don't know. I mean, to me, there's no reason that Harbaugh should have been gotten fired either. But as you know how this business works, Ben, it's the old familiarity. Sooner or later catches up with you. People get tired of the message, and they just decide, okay, let's just get somebody else in there.
Well, and that may be it. I don't know. I mean, I guess we'd have to talk to some people that were much more familiar with what's going on inside that locker room. But if the team and the organization and the players have lost faith in him and that trust is gone, and everything he says now is white noise, and you quote unquote lost the team, well, then you might not have a choice. And then I think they're in a really tough spot, because as much as I think Harbaugh is a fantastic coach. I mean, he's probably a Hall of Fame coach when you boil it all down. But
yeah.
Now you got to find another offensive coordinator that fits Jordan Love, and you got to find another defensive coordinator. So, because Harbaugh is basically just a fantastic CEO, he's not calling the plays. So you've got to sort of rebuild all 3 legs of that stool versus just one, maybe defensively, if you keep LaFleur around.
How impressed were you by the 49ers gutting out a road victory against and admittedly, it looked to me kind of like flawed defending National Football League champion, Super Bowl champion team, the Eagles.
Well, I truly think that the narrative for the next few days is going to be more about what is wrong with the Eagles and how are they going to fix that. And people are going to be digging into the personality and the personal relationships of that team versus, I think, giving the 49ers their flowers. And that's probably fine for the 49ers and their fans. They're like, all right, cool. We'll just focus our attention on the next game in Seattle. But, again, kind of going back to what I was talking about with the Packers, you lose one guy and all of a sudden the whole defense falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
The 49ers have shown that they can lose multiple guys, all pro players, and they find a way to make it all work. And guys are playing team football. We heard Eric Kendricks talk about his mentality when he came to that team. He's like, you see immediately the selflessness of the players in that team. And did he think that he was going to be asked to play special teams? No. But when he sees other starters doing it, he's like, okay, I'll play special teams. I'll do whatever it takes to win on this franchise. So that's the culture that's built. It's winning and doing it the right way. And with Philadelphia, it seems like the house of cards is starting to crumble. And I don't know what they do. Doesn't sound like AJ is going to be around. Or I don't know if you want to, again, the trust factor. I don't know if you need to keep him around. Maybe he needs a fresh start. So they might be revamping that whole offense, and it's probably going to start with their first year offensive coordinator, Patullo.
Yeah,
a lot of people want him out, and I feel like that's the easy move to kind of temper everything down.
McCaffrey, is he the best all-around running back of the last 20, 25 years?
Yeah, it seems like that. I mean, the guy that can do everything. I mean, he's ridiculously conditioned to go 4 quarters and play as many snaps as he does and take as many hits. And, thankfully he's found a way to stay healthy. I don't know how when they've got that substation that's right next to the practice facility. I mean, now it sounds like he's defying all laws of scientific research. So he's doing something. I don't know if he's wearing a PEMF mat around all day long and just blocking all those signals, but he's found a way, and he's fantastic.
All right, let me ask you an inside the locker room question that only you among this crew would be qualified to answer. And it goes back to a subject I was getting into earlier where we're now having routinely, as the Bears did, as the Vikings did all season, and as the Bears did after the Packer game, these videos that are very carefully produced and released on the brand, right? And it might be giving out the game balls. It might be Ben Johnson losing his mind. It might be Ben Johnson saying, bleep you, I hate the Packers, whatever the case may be. If you're a player, and one of Guardsy's points was his assumption is this has always gone on. It's just we now see it more because teams have decided to go more public with them because they think it's good branding. I worry about whether it starts becoming a little bit performative if it's done over and over again. But I'm not a locker room guy. I'm not a guy who was a member of a football fraternity. So in your career, did you guys get inspired by that stuff? Did you get entertained by it? Did you love it when coaches would speak after games the way, let's say, KOC often does, or Ben Johnson did after this game? Or you kind of, all right, I'll tolerate it, but I don't really need it. How was it for you?
Well, I think this situation's different because it is legit coming from the head coach's actions, which I think over time, can kind of recreate this heated rivalry. But to answer your question, a lot of us thought it was just silliness. We would hear guys or former players come back and during Packer week and give this rah, F everything speech. It's like a whole bunch of, 4-letter words and how much we have to hate them. And you're like, yeah. Like, those are friends on the other side of the ball.
Right.
And we didn't, because of things that gets built up over 8-9 years of heated rivalry. It's like, hey man, I just got here, like I'm getting used to
15 minutes ago
to this quote unquote rivalry.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean much. And I think in this situation though, the thing that Ben Johnson, the the mistake he made. If you want it to be WWE style and have this storyline, and you want to recreate a rivalry because you give this really cursed handshake and it seems like you guys hate each other, then stick with that narrative. Don't come out the next day and admit that, like, hey, I'm just trying to bring back the rivalry. Like, you just let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah,
like,
right. That's true.
It's better if you just play the heel. You be the heel. Yeah. You created yourself as the heel character. Don't go backstage with Mean Gene and be like, it's just a bit. It's just a bit, Mean Gene. It's like, no, dude. Like, you gotta stay in character. And I think that's the biggest mistake he just made. Yeah,
that's a fair point. That's a very, very honest answer as well.
I knew you never hated the Packers enough. I could tell. The real Vikings fans could tell. You never hated the Packers enough.
I know. It was that transparent, and I know it, and I get it, and I own up to it.
Yeah, you're honest about it.
Greenway hated him. I could tell Greenway hated him.
That's probably true.
Yeah, of course he did.
Yeah,
he hated the Saints more than I guess I do, too. I don't know.
That could be. By the way, Charlie from Prior Lake wants to know when Ben's new Rite Aid notebook is expected to be delivered, and how excited is he or are you to try it out?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Guardsy, you and I talked about this last year of taking notes on the sideline.
Yeah.
When it's either raining or snowing outside, and so I was talking about this morning because I'm working the Patriots game this weekend for Westwood, and there might be a little bit of snow in the forecast. I'm like, that's cool, it's going to look great, but it's going to be terrible for us as sideline reporters to take notes. And then John Creasel texted me, he's like, hey, here's this book. It's called like Write on something. I even forgot the name of it. But basically you can like write underwater with this thing. And it's got like a waxy, paper that you can use pencil or regular pen or marker on it. You can use whatever you want on it. And it stays. It doesn't smear and everything. I can't tell you how excited I am just because I love office supplies anyway.
Yeah, we're like this.
Yeah. I love going to Office Depot, Office Max, whatever you want to call it,
Sure.
and just like perusing around for like more note cards and sticky notes.
I get
and new latest pen, and I get it, right? So when I saw this and pulled it up on the internet, I'm like, done. I ordered 2 of them, 1 of each size. I don't know which one I'm going to like. Now, Guardsy, you're going to love this. Now they've got the spiral on top option
Huge.
or the spiral on the side option for whatever you want.
Yep.
I say
if
go
you
top.
Don't know what it is, I'll send you the link so you can order a few yourself.
I think top is easier.
Yes.
Like in my reporting career, I definitely preferred top rather than. It seems like side is more effort to change the pages.
And I use top for my sideline stuff. And I heard you this morning, Ben, and I was right there with you, like talking about this. And I shared your excitement when you discovered the link from Creasel. And I do need to get that link because I don't deal with in bad weather as much because we're done in November. But every once in a while you do, and it'll be helpful to have this. So I'm right with you.
Oh, I even put on a rush delivery, you guys. I paid extra like $8.
Sure, why not? You're not living check to check.
I mean, I just want to make sure that I have it by this weekend, and I want to be on record. I want to hear both of you guys say that you prefer the top.
I definitely do. 100%.
Yes.
Not even close.
Top for sure.
For sure. By the way, I also got this text, 612 guy. Recently learned that old-time pro wrestler Dick the Bruiser had a urinal in his house at least 40 years before Leber got his. So I don't know why that. It sounds like he's accusing you of something, like stealing Dick the Bruiser's material. I'm not sure. But he wanted for the record to let it be known that long before you got a urinal in your house, Dick the Bruiser had one. Your thoughts?
Wow. How did Dick the Bruiser get that nickname is what I want to say.
Well,
he needs to take it easy. Take it easy on himself,
That's another story for another Power Trip morning show, I think.
I know. Wow, what a nickname. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I guess I was stealing his material. I mean, urinals in someone's home is just such a far-fetched idea.
It really is.
So, yeah, whoever, I'll give Dick the Bruiser the credit if he needs it. Sounds like he needs an ointment more than anything else.
Well, that could be too.
Creasel needs to send him a link.
Finally, 763 guy asks, which current Viking could ultimately make a great sideline reporter? I love that question.
Oh my gosh, that's really good. I gotta really think about that. I think Jonathan Grenard has just a great personality. I think that he could just do sports media in general.
True. He could. That's a good nomination right there. Yeah.
Aaron Jones.
Yeah, you're right.
He's another good one.
Yeah, it's always interesting.
I think Isaiah Rodgers could be a good sports personality.
So we got a lot of them. You're saying you mentioned it. You just kind of threw it in there very nicely. You didn't make a big issue of it. You didn't call attention to it, but you very subtly played it. We were going to get to it. You're going to be doing sideline reporting for the Patriots game for Westwood One, correct?
Yeah. I got that assignment late last night at about 10 o'clock, 10:30. I kind of knew something maybe was going to come down the pipe, so I didn't know when I was going to hear, but heard from Mr. Executive Producer Mike Eby that I'll be working the Patriots game. Nice. Now, obviously, we have to wait to see who they play. That's going to happen tonight. And we also, TBD, we don't know what time on Sunday. So, again, selfishly thinking, I hope it's the noon game.
Sure.
And that way I can make it back from old Providence, Rhode Island airport.
Yeah. Back
in time Sunday night and not have to waste a day on Monday morning. So, I'm super excited. It'll be a lot of fun. And let's all pray that there's not a lot of pre-sip in Foxborough, and it's a great game.
But you're ready for it if there is.
You got to.
Thanks for Right in the Rain.
It could happen.
Yeah, we're ready.
I guess I should change my thought process on that. Now that I have the fancy notebook coming my way, I should probably hope for like a rainstorm or something and be like, this is amazing.
When's it due?
Right.
Is it due tomorrow or Wednesday? When are you getting it?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
I think it's supposed to get here Wednesday. I think normal like free mail, it said it was going to be like Thursday or Friday. I'm like,
no. I don't want
too close.
Yep.
I got to fly out Saturday.
Yep.
I need this thing like now. I need it right now.
I can't wait. That'll be good. By the way, who do you have tonight? Pittsburgh hosting Houston.
I have Houston. I have not been impressed by the way Pittsburgh's been winning games, especially even last week. I think that Houston's offense just has to be okay, and their defense just has to just do what they do. If they don't have to do anything extra special, extraordinary. I think if the defense is who they are, and the offense doesn't completely turn the ball over left and right, then I think Houston's the better team, and I think they should probably win.
As a wildland firefighter, Right in the Rain notebooks are a must. That's Dave out of Duluth with the seal of approval right there. There it is.
And you know what? I have had so many amazing people that listen that all send me. So it is called Right in the Rain, RITE.
Right.
Yeah, I've got probably 10 different people that reached out and said hey, this is what you got to use. So it's highly recommended. Maybe, just maybe, you guys, you might have a gift coming your way.
I can't wait. That'd be outstanding. Pleasant, safe travels
Thank you, Leber.
To Providence and the greater Foxborough area. Good luck on the call. I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun, whoever the Patriots play, and we will chat soon. Thanks for the bonus time today.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate you. Nacho Leber, Ben Leber, the final playoff game of Wildcard Weekend will be on the Plus, KFAN Plus, because we've got Minnesota Wild Hockey on the Fan. We're very late because we do have Jonny Athletic at the bottom of the hour. So let's attempt to get caught up. We'll get to a couple of texts that have come in on a number of very controversial subjects as well. And we'll even give you the latest entry for the bonus bucks, which are back right here in the Fan next.
The Fan wants to give you a shot to win bonus bucks. It is our national cash contest. Enter the keyword money at KFAN.com. That's your shot at winning. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword money.
Text earlier from, I think, a very frustrated Vikings fan regarding the opening of the show to ask me to say 3 positive things on today's program. I think I've already said a minimum of 2, but he's probably not counting those because they're not necessarily related to any of his favorite teams.
Good luck.
So I'll add one related maybe to one of his favorite teams. The Minnesota Timberwolves had a very nice victory at home, coming from behind against the San Antonio Spurs. Davey. This came on the heels of giving up, I think, 94 points in the second half to the Cleveland Cavaliers on the road. The NBA season for a lot of teams is becoming... I don't know if anybody's done the analytics of this. It feels like we've got even a lot of good teams showing some extreme performances on both ends of the scale.
Yeah.
That it's hard to get a handle on. Part of it is the point totals are through the roof in general, but it was a really good performance. I would call it a muscular performance by the club, in literally and figuratively. Randall down the stretch with Wemby was tremendous defensively, just trying to get in his grill. Well, no, he's not tall enough to get in his grill.
No.
To get into his midsection.
Right.
And just pound on him and try to make him turn in directions he didn't want to go. And I thought that was exemplary work by Randall. And this might be my favorite new shot that Anthony Edwards has ever taken, because it wasn't just a jump shot. He found himself being guarded out high by Wemby. He decides there's like I don't even know who was setting the screen or was intending to. Anthony eventually went right and noticed, hey, I got a little bit of an opening to get to his side. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hit a short bank shot. So it was, rather than passive, which is I'm going to retreat for a jumper, which he can hit some of those. I get it.
Yep.
I just love the aggressiveness of it. I'm not going to settle for that kind of shot. I'm going to use my smarts here. I'm going to get around Wemby, and I'm going to find enough of an opening because of my elevation ability, and I'm going to get a pretty wide open, effective, what did you say it was, 12-footer?
Maybe
even less than that. That was a great shot.
And Rudy, I think it was after the game. Rudy, by the way, is suspended for tomorrow against Milwaukee because of his most recent flagrant. And Ant is not going to play tomorrow because of his right foot inflammation. They're dealing with it. He's going to get 4 days before they play again. I think Rudy said the same thing. He said in years past, Ant might have settled for the step back or taken a pull-up jumper. And not that he can't hit it, but it's not as high percentage. And we saw it today.
We saw that. And you know what else we saw? We saw and Peterson had the exact same reaction to it that I did. We saw a baseline semi-post situation where he turned and shot. And I said, we've been talking about that shot for him, adding that shot, and it was another part of the comeback, as I recall. It was a terrific shot. It felt like a higher percentage shot than maybe it even was, just because it came from a different place. That's what the best players do. To a certain extent, they keep reinventing themselves where they can't be pigeonholed defensively in terms of, well, that's where he wants to go. If we follow him here, that's where he always wants to end up. If you, as a scorer, negate their ability to scout you that way and to say, no, my chess move is I'm going to counter it by going someplace else to score, and I will do so effectively, then you have a better chance to get to the next level.
And are you aware of how history repeated itself after the game in the locker room?
No.
I don't care what happens in the first three quarters. Fourth quarter, 3 minutes, 4 minutes left. Let me see it.
Come fourth quarter, bring it to the ticket.
His version of come fourth quarter, bring it to the ticket.
Let me see it.
Does he know has he been made? We'll ask Johnny in a little bit whether he was made aware of the Garnett quote being rather famous.
I mean, tears were in my eyes when I heard that last night.
You loved
it. And it was the same build-up to the long one. Said, I don't care if you get 50 first 3 quarters, last 3-4 minutes. Let me see it.
Positive item number 2, done nothing but rave about the great theater that Wildcard Weekend has been to this point. And very quickly, before we get ready to talk with Johnny, let me give you positive item number 3. I am starting to lose myself in Tom Brady's analytic eyes.
Today's lesson, how to throw in the wind with Tom Brady.
What do I do with this?
You have an idea.
Okay with this. Yeah, so what you see it, and I talk about the point of the ball a lot. You see it from, I'll start in this angle. This is kind of like a neutral plane. This is when the point's slightly down. When you're throwing into the wind, it has to be neutral. If the point of the ball is up, any wind friction is going to push that ball up over the top. So as a quarterback, you don't really like that U throw underneath because naturally that's going to point the tip of the ball up. You'd like more of a C or an inverse, a reverse C. That's how you kind of control the point of the ball, and then you can kind of just snap it off as you throw it. But in these windy conditions, you can't be underneath the ball. There's too much wind surface of the ball to knock it off its path.
I loved it. I thought it was a fascinating inside. This is exactly what you say.
Yep.
You got Tom Brady, and Tom says, well, what can I do to do my job well? Just impart the insight that you have gained naturally and organically over the course of your Hall of Fame career. Stuff that you might take for granted might be fascinating to other people. And I think he keeps just getting better and better. And he was...
as predicted on this show, by the way.
100%. We said, calm down.
Everybody
give it
relax.
A minute, right?
Tom Brady's going to be great.
He's figured the thing out. What was it? Wasn't the... we used to play it, I think, as a promo. There was the famous deflated balls, Brady. Do we still have that?
Yeah, I can
somewhere?
play it going into the next break.
Yeah, maybe you can play that going into the next break. I just think maybe that's stating the obvious in terms of where you grip the ball, but I thought it was fascinating.
Well, let me ask you this. Have you heard anybody else tell you that in the 60 years that you've watched football?
Including some other former quarterbacks and former players. I love everybody saying he's great now, which... Did we think Tom Brady was going to be bad at something that he actually worked at and put his mind to? Realistically not.
People need to use their heads a little bit. He was going to improve.
Right.
And no one ever tells you how. Leber just kind of mentioned it like.
Yeah, you don't always
You have to find your own mentors a little bit.
Absolutely do, yes.
And I don't know who's talking to Tom or if he's just figuring it out, but he was going to figure it out.
And some of it is literally just repetition.
Totally.
It's just I got to get used to the sound of my own voice in a way that I never had to use it before, other than in a football, locker room context or on the field in the huddle as well. Let's get Jonny Athletic's reaction to the Wolves' fiber victory against the San Antonio Spurs. Davey, are there any new trade rumors, or is that all settling down now as the team seems overall to be heading in a pretty interesting direction? We'll talk some wildcard round weekend playoffs with him as well, and who knows what else. Jonny Athletic in just a minute here in the Fillers.
It's time for Jonny Athletic, Jonny Athletic, Jonny Athletic. And he's on the Dan Marrero right now.
Questions for Jonny Athletic brought to you by RBC Wealth Management. Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is wide open at 646-86. Johnny, good opening text coming in, responding to the conversation Guardsy and I just had about the Anthony Edwards short bank shot, which I loved because it was not, it was not a step back. It was not, I'm just going to jack it up. I'm going to the basket. I'm going to find a crease in the defense, even with Wemby on me out high. I'm going to get around it. And then I'm going to get to a good place to score from. That's, I would think, a high percentage shot. I loved it. But somebody made an interesting point. The Ant blow-by winner on Wemby, if that were Rudy on defense, he'd be demolished online and ESPN. But it's Wemby, so crickets. As opposed to, as this guy writes, 952 guy writes, it's just a great play by Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, it's amazing how that works. There is a clear double standard, and there is a cottage industry built on Rudy slander. There's just no doubt about it. I don't exactly know why people delight in getting him more than others, other than he's just not a graceful offensive player. And so they like to make fun of him and like to diminish his defensive prowess because of it. But you are correct, Dan, that had it been Rudy, it would have been. I cannot believe that one of the top 5 players in the entire league just cooked him defensively in an isolation situation in the perimeter, similar to the Luka Rudy 3 in the playoffs. Like, it makes no sense to me why it is that way. And it wasn't, in this case, the language wasn't, and the tone wasn't, Wemby got cooked. It was, man, Ant is unbelievable.
Yes.
And it's just the other way with Rudy. It's maddening that way for sure.
No, there's no question about that. I mentioned earlier, this is maybe a hard year to get a handle, not only on the Wolves, but on many teams with good records, in that I feel like we're seeing dramatic extremes in performance from good to bad. And I don't know how much of that has to do with the fact that, people are routinely scoring 150 points. It's not even news anymore. It feels like, or what it is right now, because we think this is a personality of the Wolves, but I'm seeing a lot of teams where you go, how did they just lose by 22? They're supposed to be one of the best teams in the league. So is that recency bias, or is there something different that can explain what is going on here, not just with the Wolves, but perhaps even league-wide in that regard, with rare exception?
Yeah, there's a couple things there, Dan. I think one is, first and foremost, with the prevalence of the three-pointer and the way the variance can go on that. It is a little bit like March Madness NCAA tournament, where you get an underdog and they come out and they hit a bunch of threes. That can be a real equalizer on any given night in these games. The second part is that the economics, the new economic landscape of the NBA the goal has been to inject parity into the league and to reduce the firepower of the very top of the league. And in general, that is working right now. If you look at the standings in both conferences, I mean, there's log jams from like 2 to 9 or 10. And that is just like, there are not many, if any, great teams anymore. Oklahoma City certainly stands above. Detroit is having a good year, but I still think they're a little vulnerable. But even the Thunder, they lost at home to Charlotte by 25 points last week.
Right.
I mean,
that's what I mean.
And so I do think that Wolves fans sometimes get overly obsessed about the fluctuations because that's the one team they are paying attention to. Oh, these guys, really, the Brooklyn game, the Atlanta game, it was awful. This team is awful. When really, if you were to pay broad attention to the league, every team is kind of going through these things because of that parity right now.
Can Julius Randle play all the time like he played in the fourth quarter? Because I think most of us would be convinced that if he could, you might not have to make any moves on this team. He was very good, but is that realistic? Is that something that we can count on? What's going on with Julius Randle?
Yeah, I would say you'd love to say that, yes, you can. He can do this, and because he did it against Wembanyama in the fourth quarter, that means you can extrapolate it over an entire game, over weeks, over months of a season, and say this should be the expectation. What we have seen so far from Julius in a year and a half is that probably isn't his capabilities of doing it night in and night out. One of the things that separates really great players, and in this case, really great defenders, like a Rudy Gobert, like, throw anyone else out there you want to, Draymond Green, whoever, is that they do it almost every night, and they do it the whole way through. And so I think there's two things that make that harder for Julius. One is he just is not naturally that defensive-minded player. He has that capability in him, but he really has to summon it. He's got to play. He sometimes plays his best against Wemby, against Jokic, against the really, star players because he doesn't want to get embarrassed. And then he takes other nights a little bit off. The second part is that a lot of those defensive players who are such, fulcrums of their team's defense are not required to carry the load offensively from a scoring and playmaking standpoint that Julius Randle is. He expends a lot of energy on that end of the floor. And so it might be asking a little too much of him individually to give that kind of effort all of the time. Giannis can do it. A few others can do it, but it's really a rare thing to be a two-way player to that degree that he was, last night in the fourth quarter. Credit to him for doing it. He's showing he's capable of doing it. I do just wonder if he is capable of sustained efforts like that over the course of games and weeks and months, like the Wolves would love to have there.
Rudy has hit the flagrant foul limit, so my understanding is he's out for, was it tomorrow night's game? And
that's right.
You helped me understand going forward. I thought I had read or was told that if he gets another flagrant, he'll be suspended one more game, and then from that point forward, he's suspended 2 games for every flagrant, whether it's a flagrant 1 or 2. Can you clarify that for me?
That's correct, Dan. So right now, he has 5 flagrant foul points. And when you get to 5, so you get 1 point for a flagrant 1, 2 points for a flagrant 2. And he has 5 points. And so when you get to 5, it's a 1-game suspension. If he has one more flagrant foul point and he's at 6, that's another 1-game suspension. If you get to 7 points, every point from 7 thereon is a 2-game suspension. So he is really he's up against between a rock and a hard place because there are a lot of games left. And the way that they issue flagrant foul points on these closeouts and things like that, it's easier to pick them up. So I'm going to be very interested to see how he plays going forward and if he does adjust at all, because you can lose him for a game. You can lose him for maybe one more game after that. But if you start losing him for 2-game chunks, boy, that's a real big problem for the Wolves and for Rudy Gobert. And so, it's a precarious position that he is in right now.
It's Jan 12. How many games have we even hit the halfway? How many games have we played?
We're not at the halfway point yet.
Yeah, that's rough.
We still got a ways to go. So there's a long season. The good news for the Wolves is that those points reset in the playoffs.
Right.
So he's not going to go into game 1 of the first series, and if he gets one more point, he's going to miss 2 games. But to get there, it's going to take some doing.
Where is Anthony? Anthony Edwards is way ahead of last year in a much better shape, right, regarding technical foul points compared to a year ago.
Yeah, don't jinx it, Dan. Don't jinx it.
That's it.
He has been generally very good with technical fouls this year. He's got a few of them, no doubt. But I don't know exactly where he's at the top of my head, but he is a long ways away from suspension or anything like that. He has done a pretty good job of kind of ramping that back a little bit. And so he's got some breathing room there.
All right. So you, I'm sure, got a chance to see some of the Wildcard Weekend, perhaps not all, because you're on Wolves duty. We're all trying to apply lessons we learned from Wildcard Weekend to the Minnesota Vikings. So what should the average Vikings fan get out of what we've seen thus far on a very entertaining Wildcard Weekend going into Monday night's game?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost every game, right, except for the New England Chargers one was a dud, but everyone else was great. I mean, it sounds cliche, but you get great quarterback play, and holy cow, does that make a difference? And the thing that I would be worried about if I were the Vikings is your Caleb Williams, Dan, your Bears.
Yeah.
That looks legitimate now. Like, you were kind of wondering, okay, how does the marriage with Ben Johnson work? What's going to happen there going forward? Is that a long-term kind of couple that can be in the NFC North for a long time? And they sure look like it now. And I think that I would be very concerned if I were the Vikings that Caleb Williams is ascending to another level, because if he ascends and then you have him and you have the Detroit Lions, which is a really stacked roster, and then you have Green Bay that always figures things out, all of a sudden you are on the bottom of this division looking up and trying to find a way to even the playing field. And with Williams playing the way that he is, holy cow, that all of a sudden looks like a much bigger mountain to climb than maybe I initially thought.
Johnny, there is only one NFC North head coach who has yet to win a playoff game. And he plays, or he resides, and well, I don't know if he resides. I guess he does. He certainly coaches at TCO Performance Center. It's our guy. It's unmistakable. I mean, it's just factual.
You saying he's a snowbird or something, that he kind of comes in and out of here? And
maybe he commutes. I don't know. I have no idea. I just know that at some point this is ultimately when everybody gets evaluated, whether it's fair or not fair. And now you got even the first-year coach is one ahead of them in playoff victories.
Yeah, I mean, right now they are justifiably at the bottom of the division looking up, and that's not a fluke right now. Now, Kevin O'Connell has done a good job here. He's had some great regular seasons. He, I think, has proven to be a coach that can take lesser parts and have them perform above what they are individually. But there's going to have to be a breakthrough sometime fairly soon here. And how that comes together is a little harder to envision. They may have to, something has to happen. Either J.J. McCarthy has to quickly ascend and become a really good quarterback for this team to buttress what is a great defense, or they're going to have to go find someone else who can do it and give Kevin O'Connell a real chance that way. Otherwise, if he goes through another full season and has a decent year and doesn't win a playoff game, there's not many coaches that keep getting bites at the apple over and over again when you have that kind of a thing come up. And so I do think Kevin O'Connell's a good coach. I think that he's done a good job here, but the pressure is now firmly on him because the Bears have pulled themselves up from the dregs of the division. The Lions did it a few years ago and pulled themselves up from the dregs of the division. Now the Vikings are the dregs of the division, even if they're not in the dire situation that the Lions or Bears were in. They're still on the bottom looking up, and it's going to be a road to get anywhere into contention there.
Well, and I think what you saw, often Wildcard Weekend is a lot less interesting than it was this year in that, there seem to be more mismatches. That's what has made this so entertaining. You could argue there was one mismatch, and even that was a one-score game till the fourth quarter, as uninspired as the offenses were, New England and the Chargers. But what struck me once again is if you go down the list of performances, really from both winning teams and losing teams, given the number of late touchdowns scored, and what's the term for it? The number of times that one team basically overtook the other and back and forth. I'm missing
lead changes.
Lead changes. Thank you for helping me out there. You look at the quarterbacks. A lot of the quarterbacks played at various times really, really well. And this isn't obviously going out on a limb, but it is another not so gentle reminder that may be painful here, that the contrast between that kind of quarterback play, giving you at least a chance, and if you lose, it might be just because the other team's quarterback played just a little bit better, as opposed to what the Vikings dealt with in 2025.
Yeah, and that's the kind of the problem that I've had, Dan, in evaluating J.J. McCarthy and what his future is and all of those things, is that when you get into a fourth quarter shootout with J.J. McCarthy, that's the only time he's looked really good sometimes.
That's
true. That's the only time that he's looked up to the task. But it's the problem of getting there that is an issue. And I do think that when you look at Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence, when you look at Stafford and Bryce Young, who Bryce Young was really maligned, and man, did he really kind of come on as this season went along for Carolina. So there's another kind of thought in the back of my mind is, gosh, do you give him a little bit more time? Do you give McCarthy? Do you be patient with McCarthy and see if it comes together? Jordan Love and Caleb Williams, like all of these things. Can you see right now? Can I envision J.J. McCarthy being in a playoff game against Matthew Stafford, against Caleb Williams, against Brock Purdy, and say, yeah, our guy is going to duel to the death with these guys and go right down to the wire? So right now, no. We're a long way from next year's playoffs, so a lot can happen between now and then. But it is pretty glaring that they don't have that in-house right now for sure. And given the way that the defense looks, you have Justin Jefferson, you have Addison, you have Naylor, you have all these guys, you have these weapons. Something has to happen at quarterback very, very quickly, or else everyone, I think, including Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, including Kevin O'Connell, is going to pay for it eventually here.
How did you find yourself in the middle of a football post-game press conference media controversy? How do you do this? I don't know. I don't even get involved in that kind of stuff anymore, and you're smack dab in the middle of it today. What's this all about?
Dan, you're just wiser than I am at this point. I mean, I can't help myself sometimes, but I fancy myself as just like try to be, I look at this industry, the media industry, with both eyes wide open and try and look at everything about it, both from internally and then the views of our industry externally. I think that's important. And as I saw the grandstanding that was happening yesterday and even this morning about this Jacksonville reporter for a black news publication who took 20 seconds out of the press conference to probably cross what is a norm in the industry of congratulating the head coach on the year and telling him to keep his head up. It was a little cringe, of course, but to hear and watch my fellow reporters just dress this person down and be the holier and thou, and we're better than this, and you can't do this. It's fine to have that conversation, to me, Dan, in private, to pull that reporter inside and say, hey, I didn't really think that this was appropriate at this time, but to do it in public when the vast majority of the audience doesn't understand the kind of rules of this stuff and doesn't care about it at all. It just struck me as completely tone deaf to do this and just to be like, this is how you should conduct yourself. And this is a journalism crime that was perpetrated upon us in the Jacksonville Jaguars media, landscape. And I know the reporter that first touched it off, and I, frankly don't think very highly of that person, but,
okay, Buttercup.
Not the woman, the AP guy that got it going, but it just doesn't do any of us any good. It only stokes more fire and more ire toward us. And it looks lame, Dan. It just looks bad.
Well,
and so I didn't think it was the right time to do it.
It's interesting because I need to know a little bit more about, did the person who asked the question, does she cover the team on a daily basis, or is she in a different role? Because in every town, take here, right?
Yeah.
Sid wouldn't ordinarily go that far, but Sid was capable of going pretty far down a similar road, right? And I would obviously shake my head and say, I don't want to get anywhere near that. I don't think it's particularly helpful. But I guess that's where it would start to me. I need to know, was she actually covering the team in a so-called, critical way? I don't mean negative, but just in terms of, every day in there, covering the beat, analyzing, reporting, whatever the case may be. But the second part of it you hit on, that, because I read a lot of the comments that when people got into on it with you, and I think they kind of missed your point a little bit, because what did a lot of them say? What's wrong with showing some compassion? You guys are, and I don't even know that that you would necessarily agree with that sentiment. I think your larger point, which is a good one, is we're not going to win this, even if we're reporters who have been trained to do this a different way. We ain't going to win this because people aren't going to listen to it, and they are going to turn it into some kind of compassion thing when that might not have anything to do with the story. So I think you raised a really good point there, that I think it's performative again. I think it's a little bit of, I got to remind you that, journalism 101, that's what I grew up in. I want to make sure you know that I'm in that camp. And, you could say, that's great, we're happy for you, but nobody really cares, probably.
Nobody cares about that. No one is going to say, oh, I didn't really think about that. And you're right. You are in the right about this. And this woman that you're browbeating was wrong, and she should, not do that or have her credential revoked or something. That's not going to happen. We have to understand, Dan, that the landscape of the media has changed remarkably over the last 10 years. And there are more fan-centric coverage of teams, and sometimes that's what people really want. I may not agree with some of it, or I may think that, hey, I think that objectivity is actually more reliable, so that when people come to me, they say, I can trust this person because he's not, in the bag for one, team or player or whatever or the other. But it's also, this thing has evolved so much, and it was a 19-second little thing in the middle of a 6.5-minute press conference, and I don't think she got in the way of anything. I just don't believe that, and so I don't have any problem with people disagreeing with her in that situation.
Nor do I.
You could roll your eyes at it if you want, but if you're going to you just look bad taking this public stand.
You're not proving all that much. Just go ahead and keep doing your job the way you want to do it.
Well, to Johnny's point, when we were both in San Francisco a year ago for Game 4, Wolves-Warriors, and I was about to ask Julius Randle a very serious question, and Johnny hijacked it and asked his son, Kaiden, what he thought of his dad.
Yeah.
I didn't go public. After the press conference,
hammered him.
rolled my eyes and made fun of Johnny right to his face immediately after, right? Can you confirm that, Johnny?
100%.
Did you call
exactly
for his
right.
credentials to be revoked?
No, but I pulled him aside and said, of course you did that.
Yeah.
Of course. Of course. We had to hear what Kyden had to say, and you were the one to get it. So that's how you handle it if you're a professional, like I did.
Yep. You were completely professional in that moment, Guardsy, and that's exactly right. And I will say, like, there's been, I think one of the people who criticized the thing is a Pittsburgh Steelers reporter who asked Aaron Rodgers about his wedding ring one time. Like, we all have these things, and not every press conference is Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise going at it in a few good minutes.
It's a marathon, not a sprint, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
That's true.
Exactly.
Hey, by the way, though, listen.
And so it's just like the hand wringing looks holier than thou. People generally look down at the media and believe that, especially the sports media, that we take ourselves too seriously as it is.
Yes.
And that only just emphasizes that narrative, which is not good for any of us.
701 guy, I'm curious how you're going to take this. Apparently your guest has never heard a KOC press conference. Wow, that seems to be an indictment, basically saying, well, how is this all that different than how a lot of the beat reporters treat KOC on a regular basis? That's savage.
I would love to poke fun at my Viking beat writer brethren, Alec and Kevin and Ben and all those guys. I will say I have not heard. I know that after this season, I was in the KOC end of season press conference. There, no one thanked him and said keep his head up. In that moment, it was quite that egregious with it, or that,
a little more subtle
that flowery. I will say.
That text would be used at KOC, by the way.
Yeah, that's another story for another
fun.
day.
We like to have fun every once in a while, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. We appreciate you, as always. We'll be in touch soon. Thanks, Johnny.
All right, thanks, Dan.
John Krasinski, brought to you by RBC Wealth Management. Guardsy reminds me, it's going to be a Tom Crean week. He's going to join us on Thursday at 5 o'clock, I should say, to talk plenty of National Basketball Association and Minnesota Timberwolves as well. I forgot to get to this story with Johnny, and he wrote it, actually, and it's kind of Wolves related. It's kind of A-section related as well. Dateline Minneapolis. Target Center security apologized to a fan sitting courtside at the Wolves game against the Spurs Sunday night after they said they mistakenly asked him to remove a black T-shirt with white block lettering that read, "Ice Out." Tim Phillips, a Minneapolis civil rights and criminal defense attorney, told The Athletic that he wore the shirt in response to the increased presence of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents in the Twin Cities in recent weeks. On Wednesday, a federal agent shot and killed 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good during a confrontation in the Powderhorn Park neighborhood of Minneapolis, about 3 miles from Target Center. Johnny writes, the Wolves are tenants at Target Center, do not have any authority over arena workers, including security personnel. Phillips said that he was told by security workers that he could not wear the shirt because of a policy prohibiting apparel with explicit wording and or graphics inside the arena. I had offered to put my hoodie back on over it, but they said they had to take it. We declined to do that. Then we had a conversation, and they realized that was their mistake. They didn't need to take it since I had offered to remove the shirt. The Athletic received a statement from the arena saying that an employee misinterpreted the policy. At this evening's game, a security guard misinterpreted arena policy during an interaction with a guest, resulting in that guest being asked to remove a piece of apparel unnecessarily. We have reiterated all policies to our staff and apologized to the guest for any inconvenience caused. Here's the quote that got my attention. This is from Phillips, who was wearing the shirt. Quote, I was disappointed that they felt that was a political message. I think that people in Minnesota are in agreement that ICE is terrorizing communities. I don't think that is a political or partisan issue. He's 100% wrong.
Yeah.
And, check our text line every day.
Right.
If you think everybody's in agreement. Now, I've stated my own position on the ICE roundup approach, round up the usual suspects. I think it's grotesque. I can't stand it. But here, I'll do this. This is the test I always use. If you say, well, this is a position everybody agrees on, again, that's false. But if you want to accept that premise, you also have to accept, I'll ask him, would he suggest that if somebody walked in with a pro-ICE message or a message of, no, they're doing exactly what Trump was elected to do in pithier fashion than what I'm laying out, would that same attorney be okay with it? Because to me, the key is consistency on this. It's always easy to defend the message if you agree with it. The test is whether you'll defend the message or the right to someone to exhibit a message or reveal a message on their shirt if you disagree with it. That, to me, is what this comes down to. And now, I don't even remember what the policy is, because it sounds like the policy doesn't even take politics into account. It has more to do with if something would be considered literally obscene, right? And so maybe they've already made the policy, you want to wear a Make America Great ball cap? That's not up to us. You wear whatever you want to wear in that regard. I would need a little bit of an update on that. But as much as I would defend Phillips' right to wear what he wanted to wear, I'd say, no, that in his mind, it's like, well, it's above politics, it's right or wrong. But we're in a pluralistic country. Frankly, sadly, we're in a very polarized country at this point. So I may have a dramatic disagreement with those who say, yeah, he's doing exactly what he needs to do. But I have to defend the right to someone having that opinion or even exhibiting that opinion on a shirt similar to this one. And he's right. The majority of individuals who live in Minneapolis would agree with him and say that they're in agreement with him that ICE is terrorizing communities. But that's not the question. The test is always what you're willing to defend or allow, even if you find the message disagreeable. And that's why it's a dangerous road to go down and say, well, this isn't political. Everybody agrees with this. Yeah. Because that's
pretty naive.
Just naive. And I think I'm sure he's smart enough to realize that. But that to me is what we can't leave out of this particular story. Because, again, if you're on his side, you think this is a slam dunk. You think this is absolutely easy. But then you have to be willing to accept somebody who might be, for whatever reason, maybe their kid works with ICE, whatever, and decides to come with a very different message. To me, that has to be a part of the conversation. Did you mention the Wild are playing tonight?
Against New Jersey.
Oh, this is a blood-on-blood game.
It is. It's the Hughes Bowl.
The Hughes Bowl is what it is.
One of the Hugheses is here.
Okay. So
in Quinnesota.
Is that taking off as a concept?
I saw a billboard on 94, I think.
When does Guerin leave for Italia? Do we know?
I don't know.
You got to make sure you get, well, I'll text him. We got to have him on. How long do the Winter Olympics go? 10 days? 12 days?
Probably
whatever it is. A little longer than that.
Yeah.
We need him on like 5 times. Think we can get him that many?
Probably
or should I just
not.
Take 3?
I'd put the over-under at 2.5.
I'd take 2.5.
Yeah. Maybe 1 like after pool play. First of all, maybe 1 after we make sure we get the arena ready, how the arena looks.
Right.
Because that's an ongoing battle, it seems like, on where they're actually going to play.
Well, there's more photos that came out of the locker rooms.
Yeah.
That literally look like their house is about 20% done. I mean, it's like there's not even insulation. There's nothing. It's just like the walls haven't been put up. There's not even drywall up yet. So apparently the locker rooms also are thimble sized.
It's like Firefest.
So, but maybe this will make it more charming. Maybe this will be like a throwback Winter Olympics, right? I don't know. I'm just asking. We'll come back, wrap up a very controversial show, remind you what we have coming up next.
Show wrap presented by American Pressure, commercial-grade pressure washer since 1975.
It's the bumper-to-bumper show wrap.
How about one more Wildcard Weekend National Football League playoffs talking points? We call this one, we didn't need them.
43 seconds left. San Francisco leads at 23-19. It's a 4th and 11 at the San Francisco 21. They break the huddle. Hurts, shotgun. 2 receivers left. Barkley to his left. 2 receivers right. Brown goes in motion to the outside. Takes the snap. Hurts steps up. Hurts fires over the middle into a crowd. It's broken up. 49ers come up big. Incomplete. Kendricks gets a piece. And the Eagles turn it over on downs. San Francisco takes over. And they're 40 seconds away from a victory. The defending Super Bowl champions come up empty on 4th down.
There were no good options there, but Hurts tried to fit it into a very tight window against that zone coverage. And Eric Kendricks, who they officially signed off the practice squad earlier this week, makes an incredible play on the football. And the 49ers are going to win this football game.
I didn't even know. I mean, Eric Kendricks? Are you kidding me?
I know.
I had no idea. They picked him up in November, I think, right?
Yeah.
And
I vaguely remember that.
He's got to be saying, this is not bad. I don't have to go through training camp.
Yep.
I don't have to go through meaningless, boring, early, September games. I can just glom on late, and now I'm part of a team that you could say has as good a chance as anybody. Now, they got to go to Seattle next, which ain't going to be easy, right?
Right.
But a hell of a story. Isn't he like 50? No, he's actually not even that old, I don't think.
What's funny is I was listening to the Fan last night. I think this was actually on the Plus because the Wolves were on the Fan.
Yeah.
But the game was so good, I was bringing one of my sons home from one of his sports, and so I turned it to the Plus, and I'm driving, and I swear to you, like a lot of Minnesotans, if there was a camera in my car filming me, I would have looked like the janitor in Rudy when Rudy's out there and he's just clapping, the one you see on Twitter.
Yes.
I was just verklempt. I'm like, Eric Kendricks, it's our guy.
No idea.
We love Kendricks.
In fact, if you just Google Eric Kendricks' name, there's not a single photo of him in a 49ers uniform. It's all Viking stuff.
Yeah.
Right? That's how recent all this feels. He's 33.
That's not too bad.
So he must have kept himself in decent shape, but he finds himself now part of a very gritty come-from-behind victory for the Niners on the road. I was very impressed. I know the Eagles are flawed.
Yeah, but it's still...
Because I said, Bozich asked me, who do you want the Bears? Who would you rather the Bears play, the Eagles or Rams? I actually said Eagles.
Yeah, I agree.
Even though they just won the title, because their offense looks goofy and very inconsistent, and I worry that if Stafford's on... who's their number one receiver?
Puka
Nacua. He could end up with like 18 catches for 325 yards. Now,
for sure,
the weather forecast is very cold, like wind chill below 0 for the weekend. That could change pretty much everything. I don't know, although I don't think, I think Stafford could handle that. In any case, a great story that we might follow up on, especially if the 49ers are able to win again. Tonight's episode has included a very good visit with Kyle Potter of Thrifty Traveler MN. He joined at 4:02, Ben Leber at 4:47, and Jonny Athletic at 5:30. In the 3 o'clock hour, we did cold call Gerby. We didn't get Gerby. We got a very weird voicemail. It went on for like days.
His new voicemail outgoing message.
That's it.
Is what we got.
How long he's going to keep that one there, I have absolutely no idea. But that's available to you, or will be, from hour number 1 of the program. I think about 3:30ish. Wasn't it about 3:35?
Right around there. Yep.
Tonight is Fan on Demand night, and then it's Minnesota Wild Hockey, as we mentioned, hosting the Devils. Correct. 6:45 pregame, opening faceoff just past 7. We'll review all of that tomorrow with, right now, our only scheduled guest. Right, Luigi is our only scheduled guest. We may be adding to that as well with some A-section stuff, and who knows what else. A lot of good stuff coming up later in the week, including a visit with Tom Crean, who now has become, of course, TV analyst, pregame and halftime and postgame on many Wolves games. So we'll catch up with Crean for the first time in a while. Maybe we'll talk a little college basketball with him as well. He stays conversant in pretty much all of it. I think there was one talking point I didn't get to. Maybe we'll save that. Well, actually, 2. So we never played the Caleb talking point. We'll get to that tomorrow from Wildcard Weekend, and then maybe a little Buffalo Bills as well. Thanks for watching. Thank you for listening, and we will talk to you tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Ant-Man, Batman, Superman, Lakers in 5.
I don't care what happens in the first 3 quarters. Fourth quarter, 3 minutes, 4 minutes left. Let me see it.